Brats are having a moment right now, but have you ever wondered why some people love bratting and BDSM while others find it frustrating? I'm Alessandra from Sub Living, and in this episode, we'll explore the fun and challenge of brats. Whether you're a dom tired of constant tests or a brat feeling misunderstood, stick around. We'll address your concerns and show you how to turn bratting into a positive force in your BDSM journey. Welcome to the Sub Living podcast. So today we're diving deep into the world of brats in BDSM, and this topic is actually close to my heart because sometimes, especially if you ask my dom, I can get a little bratty, and I know this topic is probably relevant to you because I hear from so many people that they're either a brat themselves or they experience bratty behavior or they're a dom wanting to know how to deal with their sub when they're being a little bratty. So what exactly is a brat in the context of BDSM though? Well, a brat is someone who just likes to playfully challenge their dom, kind of push their boundaries, and a lot of times they're doing this because they seek attention, but it's a fun dynamic that's just full of a ton of energy and a little bit of fun mischief too. So what are the characteristics and behaviors of brats? Well, brats can be kind of cheeky, defiant, and they just really love to test the limits of themselves and even of their dom. But this is a big difference between playful bratting and disrespectful behavior. So playful bratting is always consensual and it's fun for both parties, while disrespect, it just crosses boundaries and it really disregards consent. So for me personally, what bratting can look like is almost, I like to kind of characterize it as flirting. So sometimes when my dom is deep into some kind of work, I will throw a stuffed animal at him, and then when he turns, I kind of just look like I'm not doing anything and just kind of be playful. Or if he gives me a command or a task, I'll kind of just playfully ask him, well, what would happen if I don't do it? And so to me, it's kind of just this flirtatious behavior. But there is some actual psychology, believe it or not, behind bratting and bratting behavior. So why do some subs engage in this behavior? Well, there's several reasons for this, but there's really three main ones. So for many brats, and I know this is the case with me, it's a lot about getting attention. So they want to be seen and acknowledged and noticed. So sometimes they might make noise or, like I said, throw a stuffed animal at their dom and just kind of be this playful, annoying, almost like how a child will do it in order to get attention. And then another reason is a way of just testing boundaries. So this is a big one. They kind of just want to know how far they can go or what they can get away with, and see what the consequences actually will be. So a lot of times you'll hear a brat say things like, will make me, and that's their way of testing the boundaries to see if the dom will actually follow through with what they're going to say. And another reason why brats may brat is because it's just a way for the subs to exert some type of control in their relationship, and it's just this playful power struggle, and when it's handled well, it can really make the relationship so much more rewarding for both people involved. And I would say this is a much healthier way instead of doing something like topping from the bottom, where the submissive kind of takes the dominant's power away and acts in a way where they're almost the dominant. So bratting and bratty behavior can kind of be this way to mitigate topping from the bottom. It's kind of this in-between step that they can bridge to still having some control. But now some tips for doms. So how can doms really handle bratting in a constructive way? Well, here are some tips. So first, set clear boundaries and expectations for your sub. So let your brat know what's acceptable and what isn't. And communication is going to be key in this. And so one of your boundaries may be like no name calling, like name calling may be off limits. And that's something that I try to follow even when I'm being bratty, is that I don't resort to insulting my dom. So that's just one boundary that we both have. And then another tip is just to incorporate both fun and discipline into your dynamic. So reward good behavior and then address any bratting that goes on in a consistent way and have fair consequences. And then another tip is just to use communication strategies to enhance your relationship. I'm always talking about communication. I know I sound like a broken record, but regular check ins can really help you both stay on the same page. You can even have a contract about what is acceptable bratty behavior. So, for example, if your brat is teasing you during a scene, you might respond with a playful punishment that kind of just reinforces the dynamic without crossing any boundaries. But there are some benefits, believe it or not, to bratting in a DS relationship, and there's actually a lot of benefits. Bratting can actually keep your dynamic exciting and fresh because it adds this layer of playfulness that a lot of couples find invigorating. It kind of keeps the dom on their toes because the sub isn't always obeying 100% of the time, and it just becomes more of this challenging game. It also builds trust and it deepens your connection because, like I said earlier, the brat may be trying to see if the dom is going to follow through. So, when the dominant addresses the bratty behavior, it can help build trust. So, successfully navigating bratty behavior can definitely bring you both closer. And bratting also encourages creativity, spontaneity in your scenes. Like I said, you'll kind of need to think on your feet because your sub is going to keep you on your toes, but you can just kind of come up with fun, engaging responses. So it's definitely beneficial. And many in our online community even have shared how bratting has enriched their relationship. And it just really shows how powerful that kind of dynamic can be. But there are some common misconceptions and myths about bratting that I really want to just clear up for good right here. So, one myth about bratting is that it is purely negative. And let me just tell you, this isn't true. So, when you do it consensually, and the key word there is consensually, it can be a real positive and fun aspect of the relationship. And another misunderstanding about brats and bratting is around the issue of consent and respect. So, bratting, again, should always be consensual and respectful. It is not about crossing boundaries or exposing people to it that aren't consenting, but really just exploring this dynamic with a partner you trust. So I have to tell you a story about a brat who was not doing this in a consensual way. So Jay and I had went to a munch, which is a informal meetup for kink-friendly people, and there was someone there that identified as a brat, which is totally fine, but they were going around and interacting with other people as a brat and being really bratty with them when they were talking and conversing. And none of us were in a dynamic with this person. So we want to make sure that the people that we're being bratty with, that we've consented to that, that there's some kind of either, agreed upon or spoken arrangement with them, because this would be like a person who identifies as a master going to a munch and wanting to interact with everyone as if everyone there was their slave. So that wouldn't go well. We know that. And we've seen people who have done that. So even a brat shouldn't be acting bratty or being a brat with people that haven't consented to that yet. So if you're a brat, you don't want to just be like, well, I'm just a brat. That's who I am. So again, make sure that whoever you're being bratty with, that they have consented to that. But for those who are identifying as brats, here are some practical tips. So like I said, you want to brat responsibly and respectfully and know your dom's limits and never push them too far. Always ask yourself, is this still fun for both of you? And ask your partner too, is this still fun for you? And then communicate your needs and desires clearly. So let your dom know what you're actually looking for as a brat and how they can best engage with you. And do your best to balance the fun with respect. I know that's kind of hard sometimes, but it's a fine line, but with good communication, you can definitely balance the two. And you need to practice self care still and reflection. So, understand why you brat and ensure that it's adding to your dynamic and not detracting from it. So, if maybe you're bratting too much and you kind of want to rein it in, so one of the best ways to do this is with a submissive journal. So, start keeping track of all of the things that trigger you to make you want to act bratty, and then you can look for patterns. And that kind of goes along with one of the biggest questions I get asked, but that is, how do you deal with excessive bratting? So, bratting when it's just constant and happening all the time and it's starting to get really annoying. So, remember all of the things we talked about, but definitely communication and setting clear boundaries are going to be key because brats want attention. That's one of the biggest reasons why they brat. So, if you want to deal with excessive bratting, one of the easiest ways is to take away that attention. And my Dom has had to do this with me sometimes. So sometimes if I'm being too bratty and not talking respectfully, or I'm just not communicating clearly, sometimes my Dom will say, I'm not going to talk to you until you talk to me respectfully. And he will stick with that. He won't engage with me until I learn to speak in a respectful way. And sometimes he can even give me a timeout in this regard, where he'll say, I'm not going to speak to you for an hour. So that way you can think about how you've been bratty. And then after an hour, you can talk to me respectfully. So I know sometimes people have a hard time with cutting off communication like that, but I think when it has an end goal of either 10 minutes, 30 minutes, or even an hour, knowing that you have that time frame can be really helpful in helping with excessive bratting. But if you are a brat and you want to work on becoming a better sub, or you're a dom and you want to help your sub improve, I do have a free how to be a good sub cheat sheet, and you can grab that at domsubliving.com/sub. But to wrap up, let's recap the key points we discussed today. So we talked about what bratting is, the psychology behind it, tips for doms and brats, and the benefits of this dynamic. Remember, bratting can be a fun and rewarding part of your BDSM journey if it's handled well. But stay tuned for our next episode where we'll dive into another exciting topic in the world of BDSM. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share it. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for watching and being a part of our community. And until next time, keep embracing your power and pleasure through Dom Sub Living.